So how do we respond to something like that? Well, we have to check the context. Originally, there was a conference calling for solidarity between terrorism in the Middle East and the American Indian nations, which is really a load of bullshit, and everyone knows it. Statistically speaking, American Indians are overrepresented in the U.S. military, and always have been. Same is true of people from the Pacific Islands, which fall under U.S. jurisdiction. Something about when you're old enough, then you should know how to make war. It's common sense. But it's also a sense of, loyalty to your home. So that's what should have been the response. Should have been someone said, well, we want our tribes to have, solidarity with the United States and with the West when it comes to military issues. That's what the appropriate response would be. Whereas the actual original statement was saying that the Native people should have solidarity with terrorist elements in Middle Eastern countries. I don't agree with that. Most tribal members do not agree with that sentiment. It's just a minority who said that. And so the appropriate response would be what I said. Say the vast majority of our people are overrepresented in the U.S. military historically. And that's because, for one thing, when you're an adult, you should know how to be able to go to war if need be. And for another thing, it's you support your nation, whether it's your tribal nation or your American nation. Support both. So that would be the appropriate response. But what had happened was somebody said that, basically, the first thing I said, they said that they're calling for solidarity between terrorist organizations, Arab terrorist organizations, and tribal nations. And then the appropriate response would be what I had just said. But somebody responded, said, oh yeah, we should just kill Native people then. And that was very childish, very stupid. So that should not have been said. And it was a particularly noteworthy white commentator that made that statement. So it's very embarrassing to American Indians who tend to be not to the far left to have someone say that. It's hurtful, but it's also embarrassing, essentially, because, like I said, statistically speaking, American Indians are overrepresented in the military. So it's not like we actually agree with the one person who said that as an Indian they feel solidarity with Hamas, that shit. Most Indians do not feel that way. The vast majority. And so for your response to that to be, oh, we should start killing Indians, that's very inappropriate. It's very embarrassing because that's a particularly notable right-wing commentator. And so a lot of American Indians might agree with other things that individual says, but because they said that, now it's just fucking embarrassing. Does that make sense? It's basically, most Indians do not agree with the idea that our nations are tribal nations should find solidarity with Arabic terrorist elements. The vast majority do not agree with that. And that shows by the fact that we are overrepresented in the military and the fact that we tend to vote more conservative overall. So the fact that somebody's response to that statement was like, all right, then we should start killing Indians. It was like, okay, well, you're insulting us. And they're also embarrassing us. Because some of us agree with the rest of the things that you say. But then you say something racist and it's fucking embarrassing. Basically. So my response would be, let conservative Indians handle it when someone says some shit like that. If you're not part of it, if you're a self-proclaimed white Anglo-Saxon, do not get involved, please. Let us do the talking. We will handle it. There's more conservative Indians than there are Indians who believe that we should align with Hamas. So let us do the talking. Let us deal with it. Please do not insult us and embarrass those of us who agree with you on your other platforms. That is insulting, but it's not so much insulting in the sense of made me feel bad. It's more so just, it's like an insult to our intelligence. Like, you don't realize that most of us actually agree with kind of the more right-leaning perspective. I mean, most Indians are very unhappy about illegal migration. Most Indians are very unhappy about the general disrespect towards tribal sovereignty and towards national sovereignty and towards borders. Most of us are not in favor of the hard left perspective on those issues. And so when you say things like that, you're basically embarrassing us because we agree with you on other things. But then you say, well, kill Indians. And it's like, okay, well, you're insulting us and you're also embarrassing those of us who agree with you on other issues. So that would be my advice. Let us do the talking. Let conservative Indians do the talking when an Indian says something stupid. That's all I could really say. On the other hand, let's not act like just because the woman is a self-proclaimed white Anglo-Saxon ideologue, let's not let it be assumed that that's the only kind of people who says nasty things about Indians. Let's not assume that, because we know it's not true. Let's not act like there's not plenty of Hispanic, Black, and other types of people who say nasty things about American Indians. Because there are. Many members of many races have said terrible things, insulting and embarrassing things about my people. So, yes, she was wrong. And yes, she's an embarrassment to those of us who might agree with right-leaning ideas. But then you say something stupid like that, and then we're like, okay, well, you're embarrassing us. But let's not act like only self-proclaimed white Anglo-Saxons make racist statements about American Indians. A lot of black and brown guys do that too. Let's not act like we're the only target. Because she said the same thing about Hindu Indians also. She said that she would refuse to vote for a right-wing conservative because he's actually from India. So I'm saying, let's not act like we're the only one who has been degraded by somebody who we agree with on other issues. And on the other hand, let's not act like white Anglo-Saxons are the only ones who make derogatory statements about American Indians. A lot of Hispanic people say it every day. Other than that, all I can really say is, for those on the right, more Indians agree with you than otherwise. But when you insult our culture, then you're embarrassing us. And so let us do the talking, please. We will deal with people who say that we should have solidarity with anti-Israel stuff, because we don't agree with that. We don't agree with anti-American. We don't agree with anti-Israel. None of that. The majority of tribal people do not agree with that. So let us do the talking. Please don't respond to foolish Indians in the minority who say otherwise. Let us deal with it. Don't say nasty things about our culture, because then you're embarrassing us. You're embarrassing those of us who agree with you on 80% of the other things that you say. So that needs to stop. But on the other hand, let's not act like white people are the only one who say it. Because a lot of Hispanic and black people say terrible things about Indians as well. That would be the only appropriate response. Someone says that as tribal people we should have solidarity with a terrorist organization, the proper response would be to say absolutely not. We do not. More tribal members are represented by percentage in the military than any other race of people represented in the United States, for one thing. For another thing, more tribal members tend to vote conservatively than otherwise, because we have traditions, we have values. We're not just like fucking like genderless, cultureless blobs like the left people. So, but you embarrass us when you try to speak on our behalf and you say, well, we should just kill natives. It's embarrassing. It's very embarrassing for those of us who agree with you on the other 80% of things that you might say. So that shit needs to stop. At the same time, black and brown people say terrible things about the red man as well. So that shit would also need to stop. That's all I can really say. She's not uniquely guilty of degrading Indians. But it makes it hard for those of us who agree with that side of things, because you embarrassed us. And that's all I can really say.